Settle in. Today, I've got 4 of the most twisted Reddit stories I could find. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. I, 36 male, am a travel advisor, and I think I accidentally booked a one-way trip for 14 teenagers who never came home. Posted 3 days ago on r/offmychest. I run a small freelance travel advisory business out of my cottage upstate. It is just me and my dog out here. Pat next door watches him when I am away. I am good at what I do. Routes, group bookings, budget logistics. I have built a quiet life around being the guy who gets every detail right. About 6 weeks ago, a Discord community organizer reached out by email. Said he was coordinating a weekend mental health retreat for young adults, 18 to 22, at a wellness property in upstate New York. He needed group transport, 14 bus tickets from various pickup points, all converging on one address. One way. I flagged it. He said return logistics were handled through a separate vendor, that they had done this before. He paid the full amount up front, answered every question cleanly, and frankly knew exactly what to ask me so I would not ask more. I booked the tickets. All 14. The travel date came and went. Then silence. No follow-up, no confirmation email, nothing. I sent 3 messages. His email bounced. I checked Discord. The account was deleted. The entire server was gone. I started digging. I found a cached version of the server through a web archive tool. The recruitment threads were not advertising a retreat. Every single one targeted teenagers who had posted publicly about wanting to vanish. Kids on depression forums, runaways to be, people who said out loud that nobody would notice if they were gone. And every one of them accepted the same way. The same phrase, word for word. I am ready to leave and never look back. I kept scrolling the member list. Then I saw a username I recognized. It was my cousin Eli. He is 19. I booked the ticket that took him there. Eli accepted the invitation. The first thing he did was call Eli. Straight to voicemail. I tried 4 times. Then I called his mom, my Aunt Linda. She said Eli told her he was staying with a friend for the weekend. That was 5 days ago. She had not heard from him since, but she was not worried yet because that is just how Eli is. I did not tell her everything. I told her enough to make her start calling hospitals. I went back through every email from the organizer, read them slowly this time, not as a colleague, but as someone trying to find the seam where the lies started. There was no seam. Every message was perfectly calibrated. He asked about group insurance options, the exact question a legitimate organizer would ask. He confirmed dietary restrictions for the travelers. He even asked if I could recommend a local pharmacy near the destination in case anyone forgot medication. He had studied how I work, or he had done this before with someone like me. I contacted police. That is when I learned what 14 missing persons across 6 states actually means to a local department. They took my statement. They were polite. But I watched the officer's expression change when I explained that every single booking, every payment, every confirmation email traced back to my business. I am the only paper trail. I sat in my kitchen that night with the manifest open on my laptop. 14 names. My dog kept pressing his head against my leg, the way he does during storms. I was not careless with this booking. I was thorough. I was efficient. That is exactly why it worked. I called my friend Darcy. She does corporate travel. We have referred clients to each other for years. I needed someone who understood the work to look at this with me. She built a timeline, cross-referenced the pickup dates with the ages listed in the original request. Then she went quiet. Every single traveler was between 15 and 19. Not one of them was 18 to 22 like the organizer claimed. They were children. And for domestic bus travel, there is no legal ID requirement that would have caught it. I never checked because I had no reason to. He had every reason now. The days after that discovery blurred into one long, sleepless stretch. I handed everything to police. The emails, the booking confirmations, the cached Discord pages. They thanked me. Then, they asked me not to leave town. I am not a suspect on paper. but I am the only name attached to 14 missing kids, and I can feel the way that sits in a room when I walk into it. I keep going back to the Discord archive. I cannot stop reading those threads. These were kids posting at 2 in the morning about how nobody would notice if they vanished. One girl wrote that she had not been hugged in 3 years. A 15-year-old boy said his parents changed the locks while he was at school. And the organizer replied to every single one of them. Patient, warm, validating. He told them they deserved rest. He told them there was a place where people actually cared. I recognize this structure because it is what I do for a living. You find what someone needs, you build trust around that need, then you offer the solution. Someone took that framework and used it to collect children. Eli dropped out of college last fall. I did not know that until 3 days ago. He had been posting online about feeling like a burden to his family, about wanting to stop being a problem for everyone. I see him at Thanksgiving. I saw him at my aunt's birthday in March. I thought he was fine. I thought he was just quiet. Pat brought a casserole to my door yesterday because she noticed I had not taken the dog out in 2 days. She asked if I was all right. I told her I was working on something. I do not know what I am doing. I am rereading conversations between a predator and 14 children and looking for the moment I should have known, and it does not exist. That is the worst part. There was no moment. It was seamless. Legal Eagle throwaway. You need a lawyer yesterday. Not next week, not when you feel ready. The one-way tickets with no return booking on file make you look intentional to anyone reading this cold. Protect yourself before you help anyone else. Missing Persons DB. I work in missing persons investigations. The recruitment pattern you are describing, targeting vulnerable minors through community platforms, using a shared acceptance phrase as a loyalty test, this matches known trafficking methodology. You are not dealing with one person running a scam. This is bigger than you think. Van Life Vero. Genuine question. Have you actually looked up the address you sent them to? Like, physically checked if it is a real place with real people at it? No. I booked to the address I was given. I verified it existed on a map and that the bus route serviced the stop. That is standard. I did not drive out there. I did not check if anyone lives there. I am starting to think I need to. He drove to the address. Eli came back, but he is not the same person. Someone in the comments asked if I had actually checked whether the destination was a real place. I had not. So I drove there. 4 hours upstate, last 20 minutes on a dirt road with no cell signal. The address is a decommissioned summer camp. Chain on the gate was cut. No running water, no electricity, buildings half collapsed. I walked through 3 cabins before I found it. In the 4th one, on a bottom bunk, 14 SIM cards were laid out in a row, all snapped in half, clean breaks, deliberate. And on a folding table by the window there was a printed spreadsheet. My business name was at the top, listed as facilitator. Below it, 14 rows, one for each teenager. Their names, their pickup locations, their arrival times. That data only existed in my booking system. Nobody else had it. Nobody should have had it. I stood in that cabin alone and read my own name on a document designed to make me look like the person who recruited these kids. Every email, every payment confirmation, every digital trail, it all points back to me. Not because I did this, because whoever did this built me into the frame from the start. I was never just the travel agent. I was the evidence. I photographed everything and drove straight to the nearest FBI field office. I have not been home in 2 days. Pat is watching the dog. I keep thinking about how carefully this was planned. The organizer did not just need a logistics person. He needed someone thorough, someone whose records would be clean and detailed and damning. He needed someone good at his job. He needed me. Don't look at my history. I work in child advocacy, and the SIM card detail is a known tactic for isolation. Please tell me you gave those to law enforcement exactly as you found them. Legal Beagle throwaway. You need a lawyer yesterday. Cooperating with the FBI without counsel when the paper trail points at you is dangerous no matter how innocent you are. They will build a timeline and your helpfulness will not protect you. Quiet Ocean. Seconding this hard. The spoofed email domain alone means someone with real technical skill set this up. If they can fake your digital identity convincingly enough to fool 14 families, they can make an FBI case file look very bad for you. 3 weeks after the travel date, Eli turned up alive. His mom called me at 4 in the morning. A Greyhound driver in Pennsylvania had found him sitting in the back of an empty bus at the end of a route. He was 30 pounds lighter than the last time I saw him. He would not tell anyone where he had been. Not the police, not his parents, not me. When I drove to the hospital, 8 hours, Pat watching the dog again, I walked into his room and he looked straight through me like I was a wall. He has a small symbol tattooed behind his left ear. I recognized it immediately. It is the icon from the Discord server, the one that was deleted. The other 13 have not been found. The FBI has everything I gave them: the spreadsheet, the SIM cards, the cached Discord archive, every email. But every alias the organizer used traces back to my own email domain. It was spoofed. The payments route through accounts that were opened with my business information. My lawyer says the framing is sophisticated enough that it will take months to unravel, maybe longer. I have not been charged. I have not been cleared. I still live in the cottage. The dog still sleeps at the foot of my bed. Pat still brings food. Darcy still checks in. But Eli is alive and will not look me in the eye, and I do not know if that is because of what was done to him or because he believes I am the one who sent him there. I keep coming back to the same thought. The reason this worked, the reason 14 kids got on those buses and disappeared, is because I am good at what I do. My records were clean, my bookings were precise, my follow-through was professional. Someone needed a perfect logistics chain, and I gave them one without a single question that mattered. I am good at my job. That is the thing I cannot forgive. Redditor and Scrubs. Eli not making eye contact with you is the part that destroyed me. He probably thinks you were in on it. That is exactly what whoever did this wanted. That is exactly what keeps me from sleeping. I drove 8 hours to that bus station when his mom called. He saw me in the parking lot and physically stepped behind a stranger, my own cousin. I booked the bus that took him there. I do not know how to come back from that, and I do not think he knows either. No more bad days, X. I cannot stop thinking about the phrase, ready to leave and never look back. That is not something a healthy retreat asks people to say. That is a loyalty oath. On to the next one. My yoga instructor, 31F, describes my dreams in perfect detail before I even mention them. I, 37F, found something on the meditation tracks she gave me. Posted 3 days ago by throwaway_Hales_37. I need to get this down while it still makes sense to me. I am a 37-year-old night shift nurse. 12-hour overnights, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 or 4 nights a week on a surgical unit. I live alone in hospital-affiliated dorm housing, one of those old converted residence halls with cinder block walls and fluorescent hallways. Tiny room. Shared kitchen and common areas down the hall. Blackout curtains stapled over the window because daylight is the enemy when you sleep from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. My coworker Dana works the same unit. She gets it. The fatigue is not just tiredness, it sits in your bones. About a month ago, someone pinned a flyer in the stairwell. Yoga class, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 a.m. in the common room. Run by a woman named Priya, 31, soft-spoken, one of those people who makes you feel like unclenching your jaw just by being near them. I dragged myself to 3 sessions. They helped. Not in a subtle way either. On yoga nights, I slept deeper than I had in months. No fragmented dreams, no waking at noon with my heart racing. After the 3rd class, we were lying on our mats during cool down, and I mentioned offhand that I had the weirdest dream about a flooded stairwell. Just small talk. Priya did not even pause. She said, "You were barefoot." The water was warm, almost like bath water, and there was a door at the bottom you could not open. Every detail. Exact. I had not described a single thing beyond flooded stairwell. I had not told anyone. I lay there on that mat and my whole body went still. Priya just smiled and said something about dreams revealing what the body already knows. I laughed it off. Said something like, "Wow, good guess." But my skin went cold and the room was warm, and I could not make those two things make sense together. I still cannot. I drove to my shift that night, gripping the steering wheel like it owed me an explanation. She could not have guessed that. Not all of it. She told herself there had to be an explanation. I spent the next 2 days convincing myself it was a coincidence. Maybe I mumble in my sleep, and Priya heard me through the thin walls before class. Maybe flooded stairwell is just a common dream. I almost believed it. But I went back Thursday because the sleep was too good to give up. You do not understand what rest means until you have gone months without it. After class, Priya was rolling up her mat, and she looked at me and said, "That hallway with no ceiling. Did the rain feel cold or warm?" I had dreamed about an open hallway the night before, rain pouring in from where the ceiling should have been. I had not told a single person. I said I did not remember and got out of that common room fast. I told Dana about it over coffee in the break room before our shift. She gave me the look she gives patients who insist they saw something in their room at night, kind but unconvinced. She said Priya probably just reads people well. Then Priya gave me a USB drive after the next session, said she had made guided sleep meditation tracks specifically for night shift workers, something about resynchronizing circadian disruption. Her voice was so gentle about it. I plugged it into my laptop that night and loaded 6 audio files onto my phone. Ambient noise, soft chimes, a low female voice guiding you through breathing. I fell asleep with earbuds in, and I slept like I was being held underwater in the best possible way. Deep, still, gone. The dreams changed after that. They became sharp, almost architectural. I was walking through rooms I had never seen, sitting across from people I did not recognize, having conversations I could not quite hear. One night, I dreamed I was reading a long sequence of numbers off a card. I woke rested but strange. My phone was unlocked on the bed beside me, and I did not remember picking it up. I called my younger sister Megan that weekend and mentioned I was sleeping better but having bizarre dreams. She laughed and told me to stop watching horror movies before bed. I did not tell her the rest. I did not know how. Then, yesterday morning, I woke up and my mouth was so dry it hurt. My throat was raw, like I had been talking for hours. I live alone. There was no one to talk to. But someone had been listening. She decided to test it. I started keeping track. Every night, I used one of Priya's meditation tracks. I wrote down what I dreamed as soon as I woke up. Then I waited to see if she mentioned any of it at class. She did. Every single time. So I stopped the audio for 2 nights. Slept terrible, the way I used to. Shallow, broken, waking up at noon drenched in sweat, but no vivid dreams. And at Thursday's class, Priya did not mention my dreams at all. Not once. I went back to the tracks that night. The dreams came roaring back, crisp and detailed, like I was walking through a film set. That was when I stopped being able to explain this away. The dreams were changing too. I was not visiting strange hallways anymore. I was in my own room. I was standing in front of my dresser, opening drawers, describing what was inside them out loud like I was narrating a tour for someone who could not see. One morning, I woke up mid-sentence. My lips were moving, and a sound was coming out of my throat, barely a whisper, but it was words. Dana knocked on my wall the next day before our shift. She said she heard me talking at around 3:30 in the morning and figured I was on the phone. I was not on the phone. I was asleep. I checked my phone that afternoon and found 3 entries in the voice memos app I had never created, time-stamped between 3 and 4 in the morning. I could not bring myself to play them. I told Dana I wanted someone to look at the audio files Priya gave me, really look at them. She said her cousin's boyfriend does digital forensics consulting and she would ask. I should have stopped going to class right then, but I went one more time. During Shavasana, when everyone's eyes were closed, Priya leaned close to my ear and whispered, "You were in your room last night, standing by the window. You said your sister's name." I rolled up my mat and walked out. I did not say goodbye. Vera writes, The fact that she gave you those audio files as a gift, and you probably thanked her for it, that is the part making my skin crawl. Raccoon Hour. I have done guided meditation for years, and this has genuinely made me want to stop. How would you even know? You are literally unconscious when it is working on you. Nocturnal RN. Night shift nurse here too. We are so sleep deprived that hypnagogic suggestion would hit us 10 times harder than a normal sleeper. She picked her target carefully. That is exactly what the forensics person said. She told me the specific window between waking and deep sleep is wider and more frequent for rotating shift workers. I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. 3 nights a week. My sleep is broken into chunks. Every single chunk was an entry point. Priya asked about my schedule on day 1 before she even showed me a single pose. I thought she was being considerate. She was not being considerate. Then came the update. I found recordings of my own voice I never made. I wish I could say the comments were overreacting. Dana's cousin's boyfriend, the forensics guy, agreed to look at the meditation files. He loaded them into professional audio software, stripped the ambient layers, the chimes, the white noise, all of it. Underneath the guided breathing track, there was a second vocal layer, a woman's voice, barely above a whisper, speaking in a flat, deliberate cadence. You are walking down a stairwell. The water is warm. You are barefoot. There is a door at the bottom. You cannot open it. Word for word, the exact dream I had. Priya was never reading my dreams. She was writing them. The forensics guy said the prompts were designed to hit during hypnagogic entry, that narrow window between waking and sleep where the brain is suggestible enough to absorb external input as its own imagery. Night shift workers like me hit that window more often and stay in it longer because our sleep architecture is fractured. She knew that. She asked about my schedule before she ever taught me a pose. But that is not the worst part. I finally played the voice memos on my phone, the ones I never recorded, time-stamped between 3 and 4 in the morning. It is my voice. I am answering questions. Someone asks for my banking password and I say it. Someone asks for my sister Megan's home address and I recite it like I am reading from a file. My voice is calm and flat. I do not sound asleep. I sound obedient. The meditation tracks were not just planting dreams. They were opening a door. And while I slept, someone was walking through it and taking whatever they wanted. Dude from Ohio. I work in audio engineering. Embedding a second vocal layer under white noise or ambient pads is stupidly easy. Most people would never catch it without an equalizer. This is completely plausible, and that makes it worse. Salt and Sage. Please tell me you wiped those files and factory reset your phone. If she embedded prompts in audio, she could have embedded something in metadata too. I would not trust that device at all anymore. Dude from Ohio, seconding this hard. If the files triggered the phone's native voice memo app to start recording at specific times, there may be a background automation or shortcut installed that the OP never authorized. Do not just delete the files. Hand the phone to someone who can image the whole drive first, then nuke it. She called Megan first. My sister changed her locks that same night and went to stay with a friend. I called the police the next morning and reported everything. Dana's forensics contact said the layered audio prompts were not hobbyist work. Whoever built those files understood psychoacoustics and sleep stage targeting at a professional level. Then, 2 other women in the dorm came forward after I started asking around. Both had been given personalized meditation tracks by Priya. Both had been sleeping deeper than usual. Neither had checked their phones for recordings they did not make. Building management agreed to open Priya's room. It was empty. Not moved out empty, erased. No toiletries, no hangers, no scuff marks on the floor, like no one had ever lived there. But the entrance log showed her keycard swiped out at 4:17 in the morning, the same window my phone was recording me answering questions in my sleep. Police filed a report. The name she gave the building does not connect to a real person. No yoga teaching certification under that name anywhere. No prior address. The class was never formally scheduled through the dorm. She had just started showing up with a mat and a smile, and none of us thought to question it. I changed every password I have. I wiped my phone and got a new one. I do not sleep with earbuds anymore. But last week, Dana knocked on my wall again. She said she heard me talking at around 3 in the morning. I was asleep. I was alone. She said it sounded like I was answering someone. I lie awake now most nights, not because I am afraid of what I might dream, because I am afraid of what I might say. Just lurking. Sorry. The part about your sister's home address made me physically nauseous. This was not curiosity. She was building a file on you. Get Megan to change her locks. If anything about the way you fall asleep has changed recently, it might be worth asking yourself who changed it. On to the next one. I, 28F, stayed at a hotel for work, and the guest next door copied my every footstep half a second late. The front desk says that room has been empty for 3 days. Posted 6 days ago on r/nosleep by Trev Can't Sleep Now. I need to write this down because I am back home now and it is still happening, but I will get to that. Let me start at the beginning. I am 28, female, work as a paralegal at a mid-sized firm. I live alone in my condo, well, alone with Coda, my dog. He is the only reason the place feels like home. When I travel for work, my downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Padilla, watches him. She loves that dog more than she loves most people, so I never worry. 2 weeks ago, my firm sent me to do deposition prep in a smaller city about 3 hours south. Routine stuff, 3 days, nothing exciting. The hotel was this older building, maybe 1950s, but it had solid reviews and the photos looked clean. I checked in around 7 that first evening, dropped my bags, kicked off my shoes. The room was fine. Firm mattress, decent water pressure, that particular silence old hotels have where the walls feel thick. I started unpacking, hanging my blazer in the closet, laying out files on the desk. That is when I noticed it. Every time I crossed the room, there were footsteps from the other side of the wall. Not above me, not below, the room directly beside mine. They followed my path with maybe a half-second delay. I stopped. They stopped. I turned toward the bathroom. A beat later, footsteps turning the same direction. I told myself it was coincidence. Thin walls, another guest moving around at the same time. I brushed my teeth, changed, tried to settle in. But every time I moved, that half-second echo followed. Finally, I walked to the shared wall and pressed my ear flat against it. The footsteps stopped the instant I did. Then I heard breathing. Slow, measured, deliberate. Right on the other side, level with my ear. Like someone had crossed that room in perfect step with me, leaned in, and was listening back. She held still. So did it. The front desk picked up on the second ring. I pulled back from that wall so fast I knocked the lamp off the nightstand. My hands were shaking when I called down to reception. I asked if someone was checked into the room next to mine, room 214. The woman paused, clicked around on her computer, and told me that the room had not had a guest in 3 days. I asked her to send someone up to check it. She sounded skeptical, but said she would. About 10 minutes later, a maintenance guy walked the hall, unlocked 214, looked around, and came back to tell me the room was empty. Beds made, curtains drawn, no sign anyone had been inside. I barely slept. I kept the bathroom light on and lay there watching the wall like it might move. The next day, I ground through depositions on 4 hours of sleep and came back to the hotel dreading nightfall. That second night, I decided I needed to know for sure. I came up with a pattern, something deliberate, something no pipe or settling foundation could replicate. Right turn, 4 steps, stop. Left turn, 6 steps, stop. I walked it slowly, planting each foot with intention. The room next door played it back to me half a second late. Every step, every pause, every turn. Identical. I grabbed my phone and texted Janine. She is a paralegal at the firm too, my closest friend there. I told her what was happening, and she said it was probably old pipes, maybe the heating system cycling. I wanted to believe her, but pipes do not match the weight of your stride. Pipes do not hesitate when you hesitate. Whatever was on the other side of that wall was not mechanical. It was patient. I slept with every light on, earbuds in, volume up. I told myself one more night, finish the prep, drive home, forget this place. One more night. That was the deal she made with herself. Trevor made it through that last night at the hotel. The third night I told myself I would not engage with it. I would pack, go to bed, and leave in the morning. That lasted about 40 minutes. I got up and started walking. Not the pattern from before, something random. 3 steps forward, dead stop. Pivot left. 1 step, hard right. 5 quick steps. Every single move came back through that wall half a second behind me. Flawless. Not close, not approximate. Perfect. Like something was wearing my rhythm. I packed everything I could that night and barely closed my eyes. Finished the last of the deposition prep the next morning, running on coffee and adrenaline, then drove the 3 hours home with the windows down because I was afraid I would fall asleep at the wheel. Coda lost his mind when I walked in, spinning, whining, shoving his nose into my hands. Mrs. Padilla brought up his leash and his food bowl and told me he had been an angel. The condo felt so solid and quiet and mine. I locked the door and just stood there, breathing. Over the next few days, I started telling myself a story about acoustics. Old plaster walls, strange resonance. The rational part of my brain built a tidy little explanation, and I let it. I unpacked slowly, went back to work, fell into my routine. Slept with Coda curled against my legs the way he always does. I thought it was over. Then, 4 mornings ago, I woke up and reached for him. He was not beside me. I sat up and found him pressed flat against the far wall of the bedroom, ears back, staring at the closed door. He would not come when I called. He just kept watching the door like something on the other side had only just stopped moving. The comments did not waste time. Insomnia Garage. The breathing at ear height genuinely made my stomach drop. It knew exactly where you were standing. Little Red Wolf Dog. Please tell me you did not go back to sleep in that room after the breathing. Please. Ex-Dead Beef. Older hotels sometimes have service corridors between rooms that do not show on current plans. Could explain access without a keycard log. Did the manager check for any maintenance panels on the shared wall when they opened the room? I actually asked him to check the walls specifically. There was no panel, no seam, nothing. The shared wall was solid plaster, no access point. I ran my hand along the whole thing while he watched, and the scuff pattern on the carpet. It started from the center of the room, not from any door or panel. Whatever made those marks started from the middle of an empty, locked room. 3 days later, Trevor came back with an update. I set up a camera, and now Janine won't answer my calls. I need to update this because things have gotten worse, and I do not know who else to tell. It has been 3 days since I got home from that hotel. Yesterday evening, Mrs. Padilla knocked on my door. She was polite about it, the way she always is, but I could tell something was bothering her. She asked me if I was okay, and then she asked if I had been pacing. She said every night since I got back, right around 2 in the morning, she has heard me walking the same loop in my living room. She described it to me. Right turn, 4 steps, stop. Left turn, 6 steps, stop. Over and over. I felt the floor tilt. That was the pattern I made up on the spot in that hotel room on the second night. I never wrote it down. I never said it out loud. I did not even describe the specifics to Janine when I texted her. I just told her the footsteps were copying me. Nobody knew that sequence but me, and I have been asleep. Every one of those nights, I was in bed with my door closed, dead asleep. Or at least, I thought I was. I went out that same day and bought a camera, set it up in the living room facing the hall. I moved Coda's bed into the bedroom and locked the door from inside. I lay there in the dark, knowing that if Mrs. Padilla was right, something was going to get up wearing my body and walk that pattern again. I have never been so aware of the feeling of falling asleep, like letting go of a rope over a drop I could not see the bottom of. The fact that the front desk confirmed no guest and you still heard it means either someone is accessing that room off the books or something way worse is going on. The precision of the mimicry is the part I cannot get past. Matching someone's footstep rhythm that exactly takes either mechanical recording or something actively listening and responding in real time. That is exactly what makes the half-second delay so wrong. It is not an echo. An echo would degrade. This was a clean copy with a fixed lag, like something processing the input and reproducing it. I do not like where that logic leads. The part that unsettles me most is that the footsteps matched yours perfectly. Not just walking at the same time, the exact rhythm, the exact stops. That is not coincidence, that is study. Trevor checked the camera. I reviewed the footage this morning. Every single night since I set the camera up, I get out of bed at exactly 2:14 in the morning. My eyes are open, my face is blank. I walk into the living room and I do the pattern. Right turn, 4 steps, stop. Left turn, 6 steps, stop. Over and over until somewhere around 3:30, then I walk back to bed. I have never sleepwalked in my life. I sent the footage to Janine because I did not know what else to do. She called me back about an hour later and her voice sounded wrong, flat, careful, like she was trying not to let something slip. She told me to go to the first night of footage and scrub to frame 42:17. I did. I was mid-stride in the living room. My shadow stretched across the far wall from the lamp behind me. But there was a second silhouette directly behind mine, taller, still. There is nothing in that room that could cast it. No furniture, no coat rack, nothing. After that call, Janine stopped picking up. My text showed delivered, but she has not read a single one. I called the office and they said she called in sick. That was 2 days ago. I still sleepwalk. Every morning there are fresh tracks worn into the carpet in that same loop. The bedroom door is still locked from inside when I wake up. I do not know how I am getting out. Kota will not stay in the condo anymore. He presses himself against the front door and whines until I take him downstairs. I have been leaving him with Mrs. Padilla at night because he will not stop staring at the living room door. I do not think the thing behind the wall in that hotel was stuck there. I think it was waiting, listening, learning how to walk like someone. And now it does not need the wall anymore. Ex-dead beef. I used to work hotel maintenance. Older buildings sometimes have service corridors between rooms that are not on any current floor plan. Not saying that explains the breathing, but it might explain how someone could be in a room that shows no keycard entry. Cloister bell. Has anyone else noticed she said the scuff marks on the floor of the empty room matched her movement pattern? That means whatever was doing this has weight. It leaves physical marks. That is not a sound anomaly. On to the next one. I, 27F, think my boyfriend has been putting something in my coffee, and I only figured it out because of my job. She posted this 3 days ago, and she started it with an apology for how crazy it was going to sound. Throwaway, because Derek knows my main. I am a speech therapist. I work with pediatric clients at a private clinic, mostly kids between 3 and 10 with articulation and fluency disorders. I have been doing this for 4 years, and I am good at my job. I need you to understand that before I say what I am about to say, because I need at least one person to believe I am not losing my mind. My boyfriend Derek, 30, electrician, moved into my house about 5 months ago. I live alone, just me and my dog, Kota. Things were good. Derek started making my coffee every morning before I woke up, and I thought it was the sweetest thing. The past few months I have been feeling off. Mornings are the worst. Foggy, heavy, like I am thinking through wet cotton. Words come slower. I chalked it up to burnout, maybe seasonal stuff, maybe I just needed more sleep. Then last Tuesday, I was mid-session with a 7-year-old working on his R sounds. I went to say velopharyngeal, a word I have used thousands of times, and it just was not there. My mouth felt thick. My tongue was a half-second behind my brain. I smiled at him, excused myself, walked to the bathroom, and looked in the mirror. The face looking back at me had flat affect, glassy eyes, slowed blink rate. I have seen that face before. I documented that exact presentation dozens of times during my clinical rotations in patients on high-dose sedatives. I gripped the sink so hard my knuckles went white. That was not stress staring back at me. Something is wrong with me. And for the first time, I let myself think the thought I had been pushing down for weeks. She did not finish that thought in the post. She did not have to. She went back into that session and finished the day like nothing had happened. That night, I sat on the floor of my living room with Coda next to me, and I made a list. Word finding difficulty. Getting worse, not better. Morning sluggishness that lifts by noon every single day. A heaviness in my arms and legs that I kept telling myself was just bad sleep. I dug out my clinical rotation binder from grad school, the one I kept with all my side effect profiles and assessment notes. I sat there, cross-referencing my own symptoms like I was writing up a case study on myself. The pattern matched sedating antipsychotics or heavy first-generation antihistamines, cognitive dulling, flat affect, psychomotor slowing, all of it. I thought about when this started, and the timeline landed right on Derek moving in, right on him taking over the coffee. Derek is charming. He is attentive and warm, and he is always up before me, coffee waiting on the counter. I tried so hard to talk myself out of it. But here's the thing. His mother has serious psychiatric issues. She is on multiple medications, and Derek manages them for her when he visits. He handles her pill organizer. He knows dosages. The next Saturday, I told him my stomach was off, and I skipped the coffee. By noon, I felt sharper than I had in weeks. I did this 2 more times on days he was home. Same result every time. Days I drank it, the fog came. Days I did not, I was myself again. I have not said a word to Derek. I went to Patrice, my mentor at the clinic, and framed it as a hypothetical. What would you do if a patient presented with these symptoms and this timeline? She got quiet, and then she said, if this were a real patient, she would order a blood panel that same day. I need proof before I can do anything, and I am terrified of what that proof is going to show me. She was already building a case, she just did not call it that yet. For 2 weeks, she drank the coffee on some mornings and refused it on others, keeping score. I spent 14 days pretending everything was normal. On mornings I drank the coffee, I logged every symptom by the hour. The fog rolling in around 45 minutes after the first sip. The heavy limbs by mid-morning. The way my thoughts cleared like a window being wiped clean somewhere around 1 in the afternoon. On days I skipped it, I was sharp by 9. Present. Myself. I kept a spreadsheet on my phone under a password Derek does not know. Every entry confirmed what I already knew but could not say out loud. Then one night, Derek reached for me in bed, and I let him, because that is what I always do. And afterward, I lay there staring at the ceiling, and the realization hit me like a wall of water. Every time we had been intimate over the past 5 months, I was under the influence of something I did not consent to taking. I had to leave the room. I sat in the bathroom with Coda pressed against my legs, and I just shook. I also noticed Coda has been off, sleeping more, less interested in walks, lethargic in a way I kept blaming on her getting older. She is only 4. I called my younger sister Abby. She is a paralegal, and she is the most level-headed person I know. I told her everything. She did not panic. She said, do not confront him, document everything. And then she asked me a question that stopped me cold. She asked if I had signed anything unusual recently, and I went quiet because I remembered. On foggy mornings, Derek had put papers in front of me. Something about refinancing, something about helping him build credit. I signed them. I do not remember what they said. I have ordered a nanny camera that looks like a phone charger. I'm going to set it up in the kitchen and tell Derek it is so I can check on Coda while I am at work. I am posting this because I need someone to tell me I am not losing my mind. Not your doc. Speech therapist recognizing her own aphasia symptoms is genuinely one of the most chilling things I have read on here. Your training literally saved your life. Lurk and learn. I work in mortgage lending. If those loans were signed while you were under the influence of a sedative, they are voidable. Your sister being a paralegal is a massive advantage here. Do not wait. Quetiapine, Queen. Quetiapine at even low doses causes massive sedation in people who have no tolerance. 50 milligrams would turn a normal person into a zombie for 8 hours. The fact you were functioning at work at all means he was probably microdosing you just enough to keep you foggy but upright. That is calculated. That is exactly what the blood panel suggested. The levels were consistent with somewhere between 12 and 25 milligrams, which is subtherapeutic for its intended use, but more than enough to cause the cognitive fog I was experiencing. My mentor Patrice said the dosing looked deliberate, just enough to impair executive function without knocking me out completely. He needed me awake enough to hold a pen. The camera was already on its way. A few days later, she came back with an update nobody was ready for. He was practicing my signature the whole time. Thank you to everyone who told me to check my credit and install that camera. I set up the nanny cam in the kitchen, angled at the counter and the table, and told Derek it was so I could watch Coda from the clinic. I let it run for 3 days. I expected to see him drop something into my mug. What I saw was worse. Every morning the footage is the same. Derek wakes up before me, goes to the kitchen, takes a capsule out of a bag he keeps in his work jacket, opens it, and stirs the powder into the coffee grounds before the machine brews. Calm. Practiced. Like he has done it 100 times. I later identified the capsules as quetiapine, his mother's antipsychotic. But the camera caught something else. After he doses the coffee, Derek sits down at the kitchen table with a manila folder. He pulls out documents from an envelope with a mortgage company logo, and he practices my signature on a legal pad, over and over. He holds my real signature up next to his attempts and adjusts. He did this on all 3 days of footage. I cannot describe what it is like to watch someone rehearse forging your name at your own kitchen table while your drugged coffee brews 6 feet behind him. I called Abby immediately. She pulled county records that night. There are 2 loans taken out in my name in the past 4 months. Both list Derek as co-signing beneficiary. He was not just sedating me. He was building a paper trail with my hand while I could barely remember my own mornings. Midwest Mama of. The dog being sedated too broke me. That poor animal was collateral damage and could not tell anyone what was happening. Serotonin pun. The signature practice is what got me. The intimacy part is horrific on its own, but this man had a whole business plan running behind your back. You were not his girlfriend, you were his mark. Lurk and learn. Exactly this. I have seen forged signatures on loan docs before, and lenders almost never catch them unless someone disputes. He could have kept this going for years if she had not had the exact professional background to recognize what was happening to her own brain. That is a 1 in 1,000 catch. She did not confront him. She did not need to. I took the nanny camera footage, a sealed bag of the coffee grounds, and the blood panel that Patrice helped me arrange through our clinic straight to the police. I filed a report. Abby came with me and brought the county loan records she had pulled. 2 fraudulent loans in my name, both listing Derek as co-signing beneficiary. I answered every question they asked, and I did not cry once. Derek was served at his job site. I was not there for it, and I did not want to be. I changed my locks that same afternoon. I froze my credit. I started the dispute process on both loans. I am told it will take months. One thing I almost forgot to mention. Coda, my dog, had been lethargic for months, sleeping all the time, barely interested in walks, and I kept telling myself she was just getting older. She is 4. I took her to the vet last week and they found trace sedatives in her blood work. She had been licking residue from my mug. I have a habit of leaving it on the floor by the couch. She was being drugged too, and she could not tell anyone. She is recovering. The hardest part is not the betrayal. It is the months I lost. Mornings I will never remember clearly. Conversations I had while my brain was running at half speed. Documents I signed that I cannot recall reading. There was a version of me walking around for 5 months who existed without my permission. I do not know who she was, and I am afraid of what she agreed to. Derek is so done. Please tell me you have that footage backed up in 3 different places: cloud, USB, and with your sister. Do not lose that evidence. And that is the last story for today. Thanks for listening, and if you have not already, consider subscribing.